and welcome back to another video by the Rose System. I am Sarah, and unfortunately I do not have hand tracking today because I'm not able to access my normal setup for recording. Today we are looking at the 5 main trauma responses. These are fight, flight, freeze, flop and fawn. We will also be looking at some examples of when I have shown each of these responses. I will put a trigger warning for drunkenness in the second section of this video. Let's get into it. The two most well-known responses to trauma are the fight-flight response. Most people tend towards one over the other. I am someone who tends to flight over fight. The fight response is the first response we will look at. Someone who is in fight mode will meet the threat head-on. Most people think that this will involve physical or verbal confrontation. My example is an example of this. Whilst this is true, there are other examples of what this can look like. Some people fight by turning other people against the perceived threat or outing the threat in the community. My example is from when I was a teenager. I hate being tickled. It is awful. My sister was playing and pinned my legs down as she tickled me. I reached a state of panic and slapped her across the face with a growl to make her stop. It was an instinctive reaction as I could not flee. I did not consciously make the decision to slap her, but needless to say, she has not tickled me since. The fight response is an active response to stop the threat. The flight response is the second half of the fight-flight response. This is characterized by fleeing the threat. The rush of adrenaline that we get is to help us escape quickly. I was out with friends at an event. Someone who was drunk walked into the event and started talking to us. I was not comfortable talking to him and hung back from the conversation. To prove a point, he tried to grab my wrist. I managed to free my wrist before attempting to flee the situation. In my panic, my only thought was to remove myself from him. My brother managed to catch me before I accidentally harmed myself or someone else. He held me and reminded me that I was safe until the panic attack ended. A lot of people, myself included, find themselves in flight mode frequently and constantly plan escape routes and are on edge. Removing oneself from the threat is considered the ideal in this mindset. The freeze response is not as well known as the first two, but is widely accepted in the population as a whole. This response is often seen in animals who stop moving to avoid detection from a hunter. When experiencing this, someone can find themselves unable to move or be in a state where they are preparing to flee should freezing not work. I frequently freeze. It is my main response to a threat. My subconscious believes that if I remain still, I will be invisible. I experienced this a week before writing this script. I was away at an event, and as it ended, people started moving about and packing up. It had been a long week and my tolerance was low. I froze and blacked out. I am told that some safe people helped remove me from the situation, but I have no memory of it. This brings us to the flop response. The flop response is like freezing and is considered a subtype of freezing. It is essentially playing dead. Skinks and geckos do this. Going back to the story in the last section, after I was frozen for some time, a friend placed her hands on my arms to help guide me out of the chaos, and I collapsed. When I am touched whilst freezing, I flop. My legs give out and I lose the ability to hold anything up. Some people, like me, black out when this happens, and others can lose consciousness. The aim of this response is to make the threat pass over us. Finally, we get to the fawn response. Alongside freeze, this is one of my main responses, and I am continually working on not doing this in everyday life. When someone fawns, they are hoping that by pleasing the perpetrator, the threat will pass. I constantly do this with the men in my life, even when there is no actual threat. I obey the uni chaplain because I am scared that he will be angry if I don't. He constantly reminds me that I do not need to obey him. He has limited authority over me, and that he will not do anything to hurt me. My uni chaplain is not a threat. He is a God-given blessing and has helped me in numerous ways, but I struggle to break the cycle of my trauma. When someone fawns, they hope that the threat will end if they are compliant and pleasing. These are the 5 most common responses that someone can have to a threat. For those of us who come from trauma-based backgrounds, these responses come up in everyday events that most would not consider threatening. Understanding what response you are experiencing can help you combat the subconscious mindset that underpins the response. These responses are a God-given protection from threats and are helpful for survival when experienced in moderation. But like anything, when experienced in extremes, they become unhelpful. If you are a support person, hopefully this video has given you some insight into your loved one's responses. And if you experience these frequently, hopefully it has helped you to understand what you are going through. I have added some links in the description if you would like some further research. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helps. Please know you are loved by the incredible God of the universe, and I will see you in the next video.